The morning sun cast long shadows across the cobblestone courtyard of Windsor Castle as Charlotte Williams adjusted her crisp white uniform for the third time. Her hands trembled slightly, not from the cool October breeze, but from the weight of responsibility that pressed down on her shoulders like a heavy cloak. Today marked her first day as a junior member of the Royal Protection Squad, a position she had dreamed of since childhood, but never truly believed she would achieve. Charlotte had grown up in a modest home in Reading, where her father worked as a postal clerk and her mother cleaned offices in the early hours before dawn. The idea of protecting royalty seemed as distant as the stars, yet here she stood, surrounded by the ancient stones that had witnessed centuries of British history. Her journey to this moment had been anything but ordinary, filled with challenges that would have broken a less determined spirit. The path began during her teenage years, when Charlotte witnessed a robbery outside her local convenience store. While others fled or stood frozen in fear, she found herself stepping forward, her voice steady as she called out to the fleeing thief and helped the elderly shopkeeper to his feet. That moment sparked something within her, a burning desire to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. She knew then that her life would be dedicated to service. After completing her education, Charlotte enlisted in the British Army, where she spent 5 grueling years honing her skills in combat, surveillance, and tactical operations. Her commanding officers quickly recognized her natural aptitude for protective work. She possessed a rare combination of physical prowess, mental alertness, and emotional intelligence that made her ideal for high-stakes security situations. Her ability to remain calm under pressure while maintaining constant awareness of her surroundings set her apart from her peers. During her military service, Charlotte completed specialized training in close protection, learning advanced driving techniques, threat assessment, and emergency medical procedures. She studied human behavior patterns, memorized evacuation routes for major buildings across London, and practiced countless scenarios that might threaten a principal's safety. Every simulation felt like preparation for something greater, though she never imagined it would lead her to the very heart of the British monarchy. The selection process for the Royal Protection Squad was notoriously difficult, with hundreds of highly qualified candidates competing for just a handful of positions. Charlotte endured months of rigorous testing, including physical fitness assessments, psychological evaluations, and detailed background investigations that examined every aspect of her life. The interview panels questioned her motivations, tested her judgment under pressure, and evaluated her ability to make split-second decisions that could mean the difference between life and death. What set Charlotte apart wasn't just her technical skills, but her genuine dedication to the principles of service and sacrifice. She understood that protection work meant putting another person's safety above her own, sometimes requiring her to step into harm's way without hesitation. This wasn't merely a job for her, it was a calling that resonated with her deepest values and beliefs. Standing in the courtyard now, Charlotte reflected on the intensive briefings she had received over the past week. She had studied detailed profiles of potential threats, memorized the daily routines of various royal family members, and learned the intricate protocols that governed every aspect of royal protection. The weight of tradition and responsibility was immense, knowing that countless dedicated professionals before her had given their lives to protect the crown. Her immediate supervisor, Detective Sergeant James Morrison, approached with measured steps. Morrison was a 20-year veteran of royal protection, his weathered face bearing the subtle signs of constant vigilance. His reputation within the squad was legendary, having successfully managed security for numerous high-profile events and international visits without a single breach. Under his guidance, Charlotte hoped to develop the instincts and expertise that marked the difference between good protection officers and truly exceptional ones. Morrison's briefing was thorough and sobering. He explained the various threat levels they monitored daily, from lone individuals with mental health issues to sophisticated terrorist organizations with international reach. The modern world presented challenges that previous generations of royal protectors never faced, including cyber threats, drone surveillance, and social media-enabled coordination among hostile groups. Charlotte learned about the complex web of security measures that surrounded every royal movement, from advanced teams that swept locations hours before arrival to electronic countermeasures that protected against eavesdropping and tracking. Every public appearance required coordination between multiple agencies, including local police, intelligence services, and specialized tactical units that remained invisible to the public but ready to respond within seconds. The royal family's schedule was a closely guarded secret, shared only with those who absolutely needed the information. Charlotte discovered that even minor changes to planned routes or timing could trigger massive logistical adjustments. As security teams worked to maintain multiple layers of protection while preserving the appearance of normalcy that allowed the royals to fulfill their public duties. Her first assignment would be providing additional security during a series of public engagements in London, working alongside senior officers to learn proper procedures and protocols. Charlotte understood that she would spend months in this supporting role before being entrusted with more direct responsibilities. The learning curve was steep, but she was determined to prove herself worthy of the trust placed in her. As the morning progressed, Charlotte met other members of the protection team, each bringing decades of experience from military, police, or intelligence backgrounds. Their camaraderie was evident, born from shared experiences and mutual dependence in high-stress situations. They welcomed her with cautious respect, knowing that her performance in the field would determine whether she truly belonged among their ranks. The team's preparation was meticulous, reviewing intelligence reports, checking communication equipment, and coordinating with various support units. Charlotte observed how they balanced thorough planning with flexibility, understanding that threats could emerge from unexpected directions and require immediate adaptation. Their professionalism was evident in every detail, from the way they conducted equipment checks to how they positioned themselves during briefings. During lunch break, Charlotte found herself thinking about her family's reaction to her new position. Her parents had expressed mixture of pride and concern, understanding the honor of her appointment while worrying about the inherent dangers. Her younger brother, still serving in the Royal Navy, had joked that she would now outrank him in terms of access to state secrets, but she could see the genuine admiration in his eyes. The afternoon brought her first practical exercise, a simulated protection scenario in one of the castle's staterooms. Charlotte worked alongside experienced officers to establish secure perimeters, practice communication protocols, and rehearse emergency evacuation procedures. Every movement was deliberate and purposeful, reflecting years of training and experience that she was only beginning to acquire. Her performance during the exercise earned subtle nods of approval from Morrison and his colleagues. Charlotte's natural alertness and quick reflexes were evident, but more importantly, she demonstrated the ability to follow orders precisely while maintaining awareness of the broader tactical situation. These qualities would be essential as she progressed from observer to active participant in royal protection operations. As evening approached, Charlotte prepared for her first overnight duty assignment, monitoring security systems and maintaining vigilance during the quiet hours when threats might attempt to exploit reduced visibility and activity. The castle took on different character after dark, its ancient corridors filled with shadows that required constant attention from protection officers. The night shift provided opportunity for deeper conversations with senior team members, who shared stories from their years of service and offered insights into the unique challenges of royal protection work. Charlotte learned about the delicate balance between security requirements and the royal family's desire to maintain connections with the public, a tension that required constant negotiation and compromise. She discovered that successful protection work required not just physical courage and tactical skills, but also diplomatic sensitivity and cultural awareness. Royal protection officers often found themselves in situations where they needed to assess threats while considering the broader implications of their responses for public relations and international diplomacy. During quiet moments, Charlotte studied detailed maps of London and surrounding areas, memorizing alternate routes and safe houses that might be needed during emergency situations. She practiced radio communication procedures and reviewed protocols for coordinating with other security agencies. Every detail mattered in a profession where small oversights could have catastrophic consequences. The castle's security center was a marvel of modern technology integrated seamlessly with traditional architecture. Multiple monitors displayed feeds from hundreds of cameras, while sophisticated communication systems maintained constant contact with protection teams throughout the property. Charlotte observed how duty officers monitored this information flow, learning to identify patterns and anomalies that might indicate potential threats. Her supervisor emphasized the importance of mental discipline in protection work, explaining how officers needed to maintain peak alertness during long periods of apparent calm. Complacency was the enemy of effective security, and Charlotte began to understand why veteran officers often spoke about protection work as much a mental challenge as a physical one. As her first day transitioned into night, Charlotte felt both exhausted and exhilarated. The responsibility was enormous, but she also experienced deep satisfaction knowing that her work contributed to preserving institutions and traditions that had endured for centuries. She was part of something larger than herself, a continuous chain of dedicated professionals who had served with honor and distinction. The following weeks brought intensive training in specialized skills unique to royal protection. Charlotte learned advanced driving techniques that would allow her to navigate through hostile environments while keeping passengers safe. She practiced medical emergency procedures that could be life-saving in situations where immediate professional help was not available. Her firearms training was particularly rigorous, focusing not just on accuracy and speed, but also on decision-making under extreme pressure. Protection officers needed to be prepared to use lethal force if necessary, but only as an absolute last resort and with complete understanding of the legal and political consequences. The responsibility was sobering, and Charlotte dedicated herself to mastering every aspect of weapons handling and tactical shooting. Communication skills proved equally important, as protection officers frequently interacted with foreign dignitaries, government officials, and members of the public during royal engagements. Charlotte worked to develop the diplomatic awareness necessary to navigate complex social situations while maintaining security protocols. Physical fitness requirements for royal protection went far beyond basic military standards. Officers needed to be capable of sustained high-intensity activity, from running in full gear to physically shielding principals from harm. Charlotte's training regimen included endurance running, strength conditioning, and martial arts practice that would enable her to neutralize threats using minimal force when possible. The psychological aspects of protection work required careful attention as well. Charlotte learned about the long-term effects of constant vigilance and high-stress situations on mental health. The department provided comprehensive support programs to help officers maintain emotional balance while performing demanding duties that could be psychologically taxing. Her progress earned recognition from supervisors and colleagues alike. Charlotte demonstrated the rare combination of technical competence, emotional maturity, and dedication that marked exceptional protection officers. She was gradually given increased responsibilities, moving from observer to active participant in security operations. A month into her service, Charlotte received her first major assignment, providing security support during a royal visit to a children's hospital in London. The event would involve significant public exposure and multiple potential vulnerability points, making it an excellent test of her developing skills and judgment. Preparation for the hospital visit required weeks of advance work. Charlotte participated in site surveys, threat assessments, and coordination meetings with local police and hospital security. She learned how protection teams balanced security requirements with the warm, accessible public image that made royal visits meaningful for those being honored. The complexity of the operation was remarkable. Every entrance to the hospital was monitored, every staff member vetted, and every aspect of the royal route carefully planned and rehearsed. Yet the goal was to make the visit appear spontaneous and natural, allowing genuine connections between the royal visitor and the children and families they had come to meet. Charlotte's hands moved with practiced precision as she adjusted her earpiece, the familiar weight of her concealed sidearm pressing against her ribs beneath her tailored jacket. 3 months of intensive service with the Royal Protection Squad had transformed her from an eager newcomer into a confident professional, though she maintained the heightened awareness that marked all successful protection officers. Today's assignment would test every skill she had developed, and some she was still learning. The morning briefing had revealed unusual intelligence chatter suggesting potential disruption during the princess's scheduled visit to the Thames Side Arts Center. Nothing concrete enough to cancel the engagement, but sufficient concern to warrant additional security measures. Charlotte found herself assigned to the outer perimeter team, a significant responsibility that reflected her supervisor's growing confidence in her abilities. Detective Sergeant Morrison had pulled her aside after the briefing to discuss the specific challenges they might face. The Arts Center's location presented multiple tactical complications, with its proximity to busy roads, nearby construction sites, and numerous potential escape routes for anyone with hostile intentions. The building itself was a converted Victorian warehouse, its historic architecture creating sightline issues and security gaps that required careful management. Charlotte's role would be monitoring the main approach road from an observation post positioned across the street from the center's entrance. Her elevated position provided excellent visibility of approaching vehicles and pedestrians, but also meant she would be operating with greater independence than in previous assignments. The responsibility was both exciting and sobering. The Arts Center housed a community program that brought together young people from diverse backgrounds to explore creative expression through painting, sculpture, and multimedia arts. The princess's visit was intended to highlight the program's success and announce additional royal patronage funding. The event would attract significant media attention and public interest, creating the kind of high-visibility situation that sometimes drew unwanted attention from extremist groups or unstable individuals. Charlotte arrived at her position 2 hours before the scheduled royal arrival, using the time to familiarize herself with the local environment and establish communication protocols with other team members. The observation post was located in an office building directly opposite the Arts Center, its windows providing clear sight lines while keeping her presence discreet. From her vantage point, Charlotte could observe the careful choreography of advance preparation. Uniformed police officers established visible security perimeters, while plainclothes officers blended into the growing crowd of onlookers. Bomb disposal experts had completed their sweeps hours earlier, and electronic countermeasures teams had activated sophisticated systems designed to detect and neutralize potential threats. The Arts Center itself buzzed with activity as staff members made final preparations for the royal visit. Charlotte watched through binoculars as security personnel conducted last-minute checks of the building's interior, their movements coordinated through the same communication network that connected her to the broader protection operation. Her radio crackled with periodic status updates from various team members positioned around the center's perimeter. Traffic control units reported normal flow on surrounding streets. Surveillance teams, monitoring known troublemakers in the area, had detected no unusual activity. The advanced security sweep had revealed no immediate concerns. Despite these reassuring reports, Charlotte maintained the heightened alertness that defined professional protection work. The first media vehicles began arriving 90 minutes before the scheduled appearance. Television crews setting up equipment and newspaper photographers claiming advantageous positions behind the barriers erected by police. Charlotte observed their movements carefully, noting how her colleagues discreetly verified press credentials and monitored camera equipment for anything that might conceal weapons or surveillance devices. Public interest in the visit was evident as crowds began gathering along the designated viewing areas. Charlotte studied the faces and body language of arriving spectators, looking for the subtle signs that might indicate hostile intent or psychological instability. Most appeared to be local residents genuinely excited about the rare opportunity to see royalty in their neighborhood. But protection work required constant vigilance against those few who might harbor dangerous motivations. A group of school children arrived by bus, their excited chatter audible even from Charlotte's distant position. Their teachers worked to organize them into orderly lines behind the barriers, and Charlotte smiled at their obvious anticipation. These were the moments that made royal visits meaningful, connecting the monarchy with ordinary citizens and especially young people who might be inspired by the encounter. Her earpiece delivered a 30-minute warning as the royal convoy departed its previous engagement. Charlotte shifted her attention to the approach routes, scanning for any vehicles or individuals that seemed out of place or potentially threatening. The carefully orchestrated security operation was now entering its most critical phase, when months of planning would be tested against real-world conditions. Traffic on the main approach road began to thin as police units discreetly diverted civilian vehicles to alternate routes. The timing had to be precise, clearing potential obstacles without creating obvious disruptions that might alert hostile observers to the exact timing of the royal arrival. Charlotte admired the subtle professionalism with which her colleagues managed this delicate balance. A black sedan with tinted windows caught her attention as it moved slowly along the perimeter road, its occupants invisible behind darkened glass. Charlotte immediately relayed the observation to her supervisors while maintaining visual contact with the vehicle. Within moments, plainclothes officers had approached the car and were conducting a routine but thorough security check. The sedan's occupants proved to be journalists from a foreign news service who had somehow obtained advance information about the visit timing. While their presence wasn't necessarily threatening, the security breach represented the kind of intelligence failure that could potentially be exploited by genuinely dangerous individuals. The incident reminded Charlotte why constant vigilance was essential even during apparently routine operations. Her radio delivered a 10-minute warning, and Charlotte could see increased activity among security personnel positioned around the arts center. Final equipment checks were completed, communication systems tested one last time, and observation posts confirmed their readiness. The complex security apparatus that protected royal movements was now fully activated and operating at peak efficiency. The first motorcycle outriders appeared on the approach road, their presence signaling the convoy's imminent arrival. Charlotte tracked their progress while scanning for any unusual reactions among the crowds or suspicious movements in nearby buildings. The critical moment was approaching when months of preparation would either prove adequate or reveal dangerous oversights. 2 black Range Rovers followed the motorcycles, their armored construction and bulletproof glass invisible to casual observers, but immediately recognizable to Charlotte's trained eyes. The vehicles moved with practiced precision, maintaining carefully calculated distances that would allow rapid evasive maneuvers if threats materialized. Charlotte's attention was suddenly drawn to movement on a nearby rooftop, where a figure appeared to be positioning some kind of equipment. Her heart rate increased as she focused her binoculars on the location, ready to call in an immediate response if the situation warranted lethal force. The figure resolved into a maintenance worker adjusting a satellite dish, but the incident reminded her how quickly apparent threats could emerge and demand instant assessment. The royal convoy approached the Arts Center entrance with seamless coordination between multiple vehicles and security personnel. Charlotte watched as protection officers emerged first, their movements efficient and purposeful as they established secure perimeters around the vehicles. Everything was proceeding according to plan, yet she maintained the vigilance that could prove crucial if unexpected threats materialized. From her observation post, Charlotte had an excellent view as the princess emerged from her vehicle and began greeting local officials gathered to welcome her. The warm public response was immediate and genuine, with children waving small flags and adults applauding respectfully from behind the security barriers. These moments represented the positive aspects of royal protection work, enabling meaningful connections between the monarchy and citizens. The princess moved toward the Arts Center entrance, surrounded by a carefully coordinated protection detail that appeared casual, but maintained tactical formations designed to respond immediately to any threats. Charlotte continued scanning the surrounding area, knowing that successful attacks often occurred when attention was focused on the principal rather than the broader environment. Inside the Arts Center, the visit proceeded smoothly as the princess toured various workshops and met with young artists eager to display their work. Charlotte could hear periodic updates through her earpiece as interior security teams reported normal conditions and no cause for concern. The carefully planned schedule was being maintained without any significant disruptions or security issues. A delivery truck rumbling down the side street briefly captured Charlotte's attention, its timing and route requiring immediate assessment. She tracked its movement while simultaneously coordinating with ground teams to verify its legitimate purpose and contents. The truck proved to be making scheduled deliveries to nearby businesses, but the incident demonstrated how protection officers needed to evaluate dozens of potential threats throughout any public engagement. 45 minutes into the visit, Charlotte noticed increased agitation among a small group of protesters who had gathered at the far end of the viewing area. Their signs indicated opposition to recent government policies, and while their right to peaceful demonstration was protected, their emotional intensity required careful monitoring. She observed their behavior while coordinating with colleagues positioned closer to their location. The protest group remained within legal boundaries, their demonstration loud but peaceful. Charlotte recognized the delicate balance protection officers needed to maintain between ensuring royal safety and preserving democratic rights to free expression. The situation required judgment and restraint rather than immediate intervention. Her radio delivered notification that the visit was entering its final phase, with the princess scheduled to depart within 15 minutes. This transition period often represented increased vulnerability as public attention focused on farewells and security personnel began thinking ahead to the next phase of operations. Charlotte intensified her surveillance, knowing that successful protection required sustained vigilance until the principal was completely clear of potential danger. A suspicious individual moving against the flow of departing spectators caught her attention. The person's behavior pattern seemed inconsistent with normal crowd movement, and their positioning suggested possible intent to approach the royal party during departure procedures. Charlotte immediately alerted ground teams while maintaining visual contact with the individual. Security officers quickly intercepted the suspicious person, who proved to be an overly enthusiastic royal supporter hoping to present a handmade gift. While harmless, the incident illustrated how protection officers needed to treat every anomaly as potentially dangerous until proven otherwise. The brief detention and questioning were handled with professional courtesy that maintained public goodwill while ensuring security. The princess emerged from the Arts Center to warm applause from the remaining spectators, her genuine smile reflecting the successful nature of the engagement. Charlotte watched as protection officers smoothly executed departure procedures, their movements coordinated to maintain security while allowing final public interaction. The carefully rehearsed choreography was beautiful in its efficiency and effectiveness. As the royal convoy prepared to depart, Charlotte maintained her observation until the vehicles were completely clear of the immediate area. Only when her supervisors confirmed the successful completion of the engagement did she allow herself to relax slightly. The mission had been accomplished without incident, though she recognized that the absence of visible threats didn't diminish the importance of the protection measures that had been maintained throughout. The post-operation debrief revealed several minor issues that required attention for future engagements, including the journalist breach and some communication gaps between different security agencies. Charlotte's performance was noted positively, particularly her alertness in identifying the suspicious rooftop activity and the individual who had moved against crowd flow during departure. Detective Sergeant Morrison pulled Charlotte aside to discuss her observations and reactions during the operation. He emphasized the importance of maintaining tactical awareness while avoiding paranoia, a balance that came only with experience and careful judgment. Her ability to distinguish between genuine threats and false alarms would be crucial as she took on more significant responsibilities. The successful completion of her first major solo assignment marked another milestone in Charlotte's development as a protection officer. She had demonstrated the alertness, judgment, and communication skills necessary for more advanced roles within the Royal Protection Squad. Her supervisors began discussing potential assignments that would further challenge and develop her capabilities. Evening found Charlotte completing detailed reports on the day's activities, documenting her observations and recommendations for future operations at similar venues. The administrative aspects of protection work were less glamorous than operational duties, but equally important for maintaining the high standards that ensured royal safety. As she finished her paperwork, Charlotte reflected on the complex orchestration required for even routine royal engagements. Dozens of professionals from multiple agencies had worked seamlessly together to create conditions that allowed meaningful public interaction while maintaining appropriate security. The success required not just individual competence, but also coordination and communication that enabled the whole team to function as a unified protective force. Her mobile phone buzzed with a text message from her parents, who had seen news coverage of the day's royal visit and recognized their daughter's professional involvement, even though her role remained invisible to public view. Their pride was evident, and Charlotte felt gratitude for the family support that had enabled her to pursue such demanding and meaningful work. The following morning brought assignment to a different type of operation, providing security during a private royal engagement with minimal public exposure. These quieter duties required different skills and awareness, as threats could emerge from unexpected directions when public attention and visible security presence were reduced. Charlotte welcomed the opportunity to develop her capabilities across the full spectrum of protection scenarios. Her growing reputation within the department led to inclusion in special training programs designed for officers with advancement potential. Charlotte found herself studying international protection techniques, learning from experts who had served in diplomatic security and counter-terrorism units. The additional education broadened her understanding of the complex threat environment that modern protection officers needed to navigate. 6 months had passed since Charlotte's first assignment, and the autumn morning carried the crisp promise of another challenging day. Her position within the Royal Protection Squad had evolved from probationary officer to trusted team member, earning respect through consistent performance and unwavering dedication. Today would test every skill she had developed as the intelligence briefing revealed credible threats against multiple members of the royal family during a high-profile charity gala. The palace ballroom would host over 300 distinguished guests, including foreign dignitaries. Government ministers and prominent business leaders gathered to support children's medical research. The event's profile made it an attractive target for various extremist groups seeking maximum publicity for their causes. Charlotte's assignment placed her on the personal protection detail for Princess Catherine, a responsibility that represented the pinnacle of royal security work. Morning preparation began with detailed threat assessment reviews conducted in the secure briefing room beneath Windsor Castle. Intelligence analysts presented updated information about known hostile individuals and organizations that might attempt to disrupt the evening's proceedings. The briefing included photographs, behavioral profiles, and tactical recommendations that would guide protection operations throughout the event. Charlotte studied the ballroom layout with experienced eyes, noting sight lines, potential concealment positions, and evacuation routes that might be needed during emergency situations. The venue's elegant architecture created both opportunities and challenges for protection work, its grand spaces providing excellent visibility while also offering numerous positions where threats might attempt to operate. The security plan involved multiple layers of protection, from uniformed officers maintaining visible deterrence to plainclothes agents who would blend invisibly among the guests. Charlotte's role positioned her within the inner circle around Princess Catherine, requiring her to balance protection duties with the social demands of formal diplomatic engagement. Advanced preparation had involved weeks of coordination between the Royal Protection Squad, Metropolitan Police, intelligence services, and private security firms. Every vendor, staff member, and guest had been thoroughly vetted through comprehensive background investigations. The complex logistics required precise timing and flawless execution to maintain both security and the elegant atmosphere expected at such distinguished gatherings. Charlotte's uniform for the evening was a carefully tailored evening gown that concealed sophisticated communication equipment and defensive weapons while allowing her to blend seamlessly among the formally dressed guests. The garment had been specially designed by security experts to provide tactical functionality without compromising the aesthetic requirements of high society events. Her earpiece was virtually invisible, using advanced technology that provided crystal-clear communication with other team members while remaining undetectable to casual observation. The sophisticated equipment allowed real-time coordination between protection officers positioned throughout the venue and command centers, monitoring the broader security situation. The afternoon brought final briefings with Princess Catherine's personal staff, reviewing the evening's schedule and identifying potential points where security concerns might arise. The princess would be meeting with major donors, delivering remarks about the charity's mission, and participating in auction activities that would require movement throughout the ballroom. Charlotte's growing expertise had earned her inclusion in advance reconnaissance of the venue, walking through every route the princess would travel and identifying positions where protection officers would be stationed. The careful planning ensured that security presence would be adequate without becoming obtrusive or interfering with the social objectives of the gathering. Guest arrival began at 6 o'clock, with Charlotte positioned near the main entrance to observe attendees and coordinate with security personnel conducting final credential checks. Her trained eyes assessed each arrival, looking for behavioral anomalies or individuals who didn't match their supposed identities. The work required intense concentration and split-second decision-making abilities. The diversity of guests presented unique challenges, as foreign dignitaries arrived with their own security details that needed integration into the overall protection plan. Charlotte observed how senior officers negotiated these complex arrangements, balancing diplomatic sensitivities with security requirements that couldn't be compromised. Princess Catherine's arrival was executed with flawless precision, her vehicle approaching through secure routes that had been cleared and monitored throughout the afternoon. Charlotte took her position within the protection formation, close enough to respond immediately to any threats while maintaining appropriate distance for royal protocol and public interaction. The ballroom reception proceeded smoothly, with guests mingling over cocktails while Charlotte maintained vigilant observation of the surrounding environment. Her position allowed her to monitor the princess's interactions while scanning for potential threats among the elegantly dressed crowd. The sophisticated setting required different awareness than outdoor public events, but the fundamental principles of protection work remained unchanged. Dinner service began at 7:30, with Charlotte positioned at a table that provided optimal sight lines across the ballroom while keeping her within immediate response distance of the princess. The seating arrangement had been carefully planned to ensure protection officers could fulfill their duties while participating appropriately in the social aspects of the event. During the meal, Charlotte observed the subtle coordination between multiple security teams, each responsible for different aspects of the protection operation. Communication flowed seamlessly through encrypted channels, keeping all team members informed about developing situations without alerting guests to the security presence surrounding them. The charity auction generated considerable excitement among the guests, with spirited bidding for exclusive items and experiences donated by supporters. Charlotte watched as the princess participated actively in the proceedings, her genuine enthusiasm for the cause evident in her interactions with major donors and auction organizers. A sudden commotion near the ballroom side entrance briefly elevated tension levels as security officers responded to what appeared to be an unauthorized individual attempting to enter the venue. Charlotte maintained her position while monitoring the situation through her earpiece, ready to initiate protective measures if the incident escalated into a genuine threat. The disturbance proved to be a late-arriving guest who had become separated from their invitation and security credentials. The situation was resolved quickly through verification procedures, but the incident reminded everyone present that threats could emerge unexpectedly even during carefully controlled events. As the evening progressed, Charlotte found herself increasingly impressed by the princess's natural grace under the subtle pressure of constant security surveillance. Her ability to engage warmly with guests while remaining aware of protection protocols demonstrated the remarkable skills required for successful royal duties in the modern era. The auction's climax came with bidding for a private dinner with the princess, an opportunity that generated intense interest among wealthy supporters. Charlotte observed the proceedings carefully, noting how the excitement created movement patterns that required constant assessment for security implications. A distinguished gentleman in his 60s caught Charlotte's attention during the final bidding phase, his behavior subtly different from other guests in ways that triggered her professional instincts. His positioning near the princess's table and focused attention on her movements, rather than the auction items, suggested possible surveillance or reconnaissance activities. Charlotte discreetly communicated her observations to senior protection officers while maintaining visual contact with the individual. Within minutes, plainclothes security personnel had approached the man for casual conversation that would allow assessment of his intentions and background verification through database searches. The investigation revealed that the suspicious guest was indeed conducting surveillance, but for entirely legitimate purposes, as a journalist preparing background research for an authorized interview scheduled later that week. While harmless, the incident demonstrated the importance of treating every anomaly seriously until proven otherwise. The charity auction concluded successfully, having raised substantial funds for children's medical research while providing an elegant social occasion for the donors and supporters. Princess Catherine's participation had been both gracious and effective, her presence adding prestige to the cause while generating media attention that would extend the event's fundraising impact. Post-dinner entertainment featured a string quartet performing classical selections, while guests enjoyed coffee and desserts in the ballroom's adjoining salon. Charlotte adjusted her position to maintain optimal coverage during the venue transition, coordinating with other protection officers to ensure continuous security during the movement. The relaxed atmosphere of the entertainment portion required different vigilance, as reduced lighting and scattered seating arrangements created new challenges for threat detection and response capabilities. Charlotte found herself relying increasingly on audio cues and peripheral vision to maintain awareness of potential developing situations. A fire alarm activation in the building's east wing briefly created tension as automatic protocols required assessment of whether the alert represented genuine emergency or potential security breach. Charlotte prepared for immediate evacuation procedures, while coordination teams investigated the cause and determined appropriate responses. The alarm proved to be triggered by kitchen equipment malfunction rather than actual fire or security threat. However, the incident provided valuable real-world testing of emergency procedures and demonstrated how quickly apparent social events could transform into tactical situations, requiring immediate professional response. As the evening entered its final phase, Charlotte observed the gradual departure of guests following established security protocols that ensured royal safety while maintaining the social courtesies expected at such gatherings. Her role required coordination between protection duties and facilitating the princess's farewell interactions with key supporters and dignitaries. The event concluded without significant security incidents, though Charlotte's detailed after-action report identified several areas where procedures could be refined for future similar operations. Her observations and recommendations would contribute to the continuous improvement process that kept royal protection capabilities at the highest international standards. Detective Sergeant Morrison's evaluation of Charlotte's performance was overwhelmingly positive, noting her professional growth and increasing capability to handle complex protection assignments. Her promotion to senior protection officer was formally confirmed, recognizing both her technical competence and leadership potential within the squad. The advancement brought new responsibilities and more challenging assignments, including overseas travel with royal delegations and coordination with international security services. Charlotte felt both pride and renewed determination as she prepared for expanded duties that would test her abilities across the full spectrum of protection scenarios. Her success story had become inspirational within the department, demonstrating how dedication and professionalism could enable rapid advancement through the ranks of royal protection. Younger officers sought her mentorship, hoping to learn from her example and develop similar capabilities for their own careers in service of the crown. Training responsibilities were added to Charlotte's operational duties, as her supervisors recognized her talent for developing others and sharing the knowledge she had gained through intensive experience. Teaching protection techniques to new recruits provided different satisfaction than operational work, contributing to the long-term strength of the Royal Protection Squad. International assignments began with a royal visit to Canada, where Charlotte worked alongside Canadian Security Services and Royal Canadian Mounted Police units responsible for protecting visiting dignitaries. The experience broadened her understanding of how different nations approached protection work while maintaining the fundamental principles that ensured principal safety. Working with international partners revealed both similarities and differences in protection philosophies and techniques. Charlotte observed how cultural factors influenced security planning and execution, while core tactical principles remained consistent across different national approaches to dignitary protection. Her growing expertise in international protection led to selection for advanced training programs conducted jointly with allied nations' security services. The education included counterterrorism techniques, advanced threat assessment, and coordination protocols for multinational protection operations. Charlotte's career trajectory continued upward as she demonstrated exceptional capability across increasingly challenging assignments. Her reputation within the international protection community grew, leading to requests for her participation in special operations and high-risk assignments that required the most experienced and capable officers available. A year after joining the Royal Protection Squad, Charlotte reflected on her remarkable journey from military service to the pinnacle of dignitary protection work. Her success had required dedication, sacrifice, and continuous learning, but had provided opportunities to serve at the highest levels of national security and royal service. The young woman who had once helped an elderly shopkeeper after a robbery had evolved into a highly skilled professional, capable of protecting the most important individuals in British society. Her story demonstrated how personal values of service and protection could be transformed into meaningful careers that contributed to national security and institutional preservation. Charlotte's future held promise for continued advancement and increasingly significant responsibilities within the Royal Protection Squad. Her proven capabilities and leadership potential positioned her for senior roles that would shape the next generation of officers dedicated to preserving the safety and security of the British monarchy. Standing again in the Windsor Castle courtyard where her journey had begun, Charlotte felt profound satisfaction knowing that her work contributed to protecting institutions and traditions that had endured for centuries. She had found her calling in service to something greater than herself, and her dedication would continue to make a difference for years to come.